Welcome back. Today we have an event, a birthday, a lovely piece of music, and a quote. So grab your favorite cuppa, settle in, and let's have a look. Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for September 19th. September 19th is the 262nd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 263rd in leap years, with 103 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is assent. Assent can be a noun or a verb. As a noun, assent generally means the expression of approval or agreement, as in, the proposal was met with general assent from the committee. As a verb, assent is still about agreement, to give or express one's concurrence, acquiescence, or compliance, or to admit as true. Express one's agreement or concession. Perhaps another way to say it is to agree or approve of something, especially after careful consideration. An example sentence might be, after hearing the arguments, she assented to the plan. Assent seems to be a bit more formal or deliberate than a simple yes. And while consent might sometimes be given as a synonym of assent, it is worth noting here that assent usually differs from consent in that consent is about permission, where assent is more about mental or intellectual agreement. The word assent comes to us from Middle English, Old French before that, originally from Latin. First known use of the word assent is around the 1200s. Assent. And with that, we've mentioned before that in the early days of colonial America, anyone who had or did business in colonial America did so by assent of the crown. We're talking 1600s here, and the king had a lot of rules, as kings often do. But there he was, all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, and the colonists encountered all sorts of issues and problems that needed quicker solutions than writing to His Majesty, sending that message across the ocean, and awaiting his response. Of course, the colonists would try to figure out and enact solutions in a more expeditious manner than waiting months for the king's input on every little detail. And while King Charles is reported to have been a fairly agreeable fellow on a personal level, several orders had been issued that, while they may have profited the crown, ultimately made things more difficult for the colonists. Unfortunately, this led to a confluence of complicated and complicating factors, which generated dissatisfaction among the Virginia colonists, ultimately leading to an armed rebellion led by a settler named Nathaniel Bacon against the colonial governor William Berkeley. And so it is that on September 19, 1676, the settlement of Jamestown was burned to the ground by the forces of Nathaniel Bacon during what is known as Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon's Rebellion was the first rebellion in the North American colonies in which discontented frontiersmen took part. This is the birthday of British novelist, playwright, and poet William Golding, born September 19, 1911. If that name seems familiar to you, you may be aware of his novel, Lord of the Flies. This was published in 1954. He wrote plenty of other works, too, and won a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1983. William Golding lived to the age of 81. Often when I'm running errands in the car, I'll turn on the Sirius XM satellite radio, the SPA station. The SPA station plays New Age music, which I find generally peaceful. One of the songs I heard on my most recent errand was by an artist named Hilary Stagg, so I thought I would introduce you to one of his songs. Named after Sir Edmund Hillary, he had attended a concert by Andreas Vollenweider, whose work I also admire. But Hilary Stagg was so impressed that he went out and bought himself a small harp to learn how to play. I had often wondered what instrument he was using. He was an electrician by trade and used those skills to figure out how to amplify the sounds of his harp. I learned that Hilary Stagg passed after a brief illness in 1999, so He's no longer with us, but we can still find his music in various electronic sources such as YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, and so on. Everything I've heard from Hilary Stagg is lovely, flowing, and peaceful. And today I'll share a link to one called Heaven on Earth, which I believe appears on an album called Dream Spiral. Lovely work, Heaven on Earth by Hilary Stagg. Link in the description. How about that? I heard from some of my YouTube viewers that there seems to be some issue with commenting on my videos. Not sure what might be going on there. Hopefully it's just a glitch that will be cleared up by the time you see this video. I do read all the comments and appreciate the interaction, so I hope that was just a temporary glitch. Kind of reminded me of an old saying that's been around a long, long time, and it was popularized in the 1800s. And it is, if at first you don't succeed, try again. We are big proponents of that philosophy at the Bowers household. We say it a little differently, but it's the same philosophy. Alrighty, y'all, take care. Be good to each other. I'll see you next time. And a hearty and grateful shout out to this lovely family who bought me a coffee. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to add your name to that list, there is a link in the description where you too can buy me a coffee. All righty. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlists in the description. You can find me on BitChute, Facebook, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, and X, as well as on a blog page called No Really. No Really. No Really. Consider following my Day in History page on Facebook if you're on Facebook. I also have a Patreon account now, or you can buy me a coffee. All those links are in the description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.